Send. There we go. Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to our webinar for August. And thank you for taking the time to come and join us. The agenda for today, it's basically a bit of feedback from me, then a general Q&A session. I just want to give you an update on what's been happening on our sides. We haven't said much, but there's actually a hell of a lot going on. So it's a little bit like the duck on the pond. Everything looks serene on the top, but lots of paddling going on underneath. And as a result of that, there's a little bit of a shift in emphasis in our strategic thinking. So I want to share with you what's going on, in that space too. So as you guys know, the product NXT-9 as basically a diagnostic, okay? But our intention is that it is the SME and the coach's ally in helping people scale businesses and do it in a way that's cost effective. So it's meant to be a tool that helps you and the CEO on that journey. So what we've done in the last 3 or 4 months is we've started up 2 pilot projects, and the intent of the pilot project is to test the hypothesis. I'm just going to change to my next slide over here. There we go, that one there. Basically, check the hypothesis that if we gamify the building of business, we'll improve the habits and the practices of the CEO and their teams. And as a result of that, we will end up in a place where we have better businesses built. So that's what we're busy doing. So we've put 2 pilot projects into play. They're going to run for the next 12 months. And we are already seeing, a lot of enthusiasm. So the fun part is there. There's a competitive element. And the NXT-9 team are also taking part, by the way, and I can see my competitive juices are stirred as well. So we focus on our execution rhythms, and so is everybody else. So there's a competitive element. The feedback so far is very positive. There's enthusiasm. There's a lot of fun being had. But most importantly, the MMIX, the Management Maturity Index, for these teams is improving with time. And as time goes by, it's getting better and better. So the habits and practices are improving. So that's great. And also as a result of that, the Team Maturity Index, which is the average of all the management maturity indexes, is also improving. It's a little early to say that the BMIX is improving, the Business Maturity Index. Basically because not everybody is updating their business maturity index, and it's a little early for that part yet. We've been going for about three or so months for the first group, and a little less for the second group. So bottom line, heading in the right direction. There are 26 businesses on these 2 pilot projects. Long story short, the hypothesis looks like it's going to be proven valid, in which case this tool, the habit builder as we used to call it, and the quest as we're going to call it, is going to be built into the NXT-9 X-ray. So we're going to, basically, when you get onto the X-ray, you will see on the left-hand side, in a few months' time, you will see the feature for the habit builder as well. So the businesses that you put onto the X-ray, not only able to do the X-ray itself and diagnose where to focus and manage their progress in building their businesses, but also will be able to take part in a collection of habit building practices. And those things include the nomination of a daily number 1. We're using a chatbot to do that at the moment on WhatsApp. It may stay on WhatsApp, but it will probably end up on the platform as well. So we nominate each day what it is that our daily number 1 is, and then on a weekly basis, we go into the system and we put down our 3 top promises for the week. and then we manage the implementation of that. We do a weekly commitment meeting, and we review the progress of how we're doing versus those. And those pilot teams are now at the stage where they're linking those weekly promises to their quarterly goals, and ultimately to the OKRs that they have in the business for the year. So that stack of execution practices, from daily through weekly through quarterly, ultimately to annual, and the BHAG, will be built into the Quest product. So what we are doing is we are busy pivoting the product itself. So the marketing team are busy working on the collateral. We're busy working on the website. The product team is working on upgrading the platform itself to make the Habit Builder Quest feature able to go live in a few months time. So that's exciting stuff. The investor that we have on board is supporting the program for a specific reason. It's a bank, and their interest is if we can find ways to incentivize focus on business building and making sure that the habits and practices are good, so businesses stick the course. Obviously, there's an incentive for them in the sense that it reduces the risk of the people who borrow money from them. And the plus side for the businesses who use the X-ray is if they make good progress, chances are you might find that there's some kind of financial incentive that comes from this thing as well. So that's what I wanted to just share with you guys and give you a little bit of an update on that. So thoughts, questions, comments on that? Do you think that's something that might be of use to your clients?
Wayne, I think the idea of gamification in this is really, really important, especially as you start to look at the younger generation coming into business, and that's the type of area that they understand. That's the thing that gets them going. They're on their phones, on their devices the whole time. They're used to that there. So it's a good way to connect to them. I think for the older generation, that sort of challenge and incentive and competition and all of that is good to drive good habits and that in the process.
Yeah.
So yeah, really like where it's going.
Cool. Guy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Wayne, just a couple of things on Habit Builder. I mean, I've been participating in the daily WhatsApp bot thing, which has its pros and cons, and made some suggestions there. But I think it'd be really helpful as coaches, two things. One is to be able to see what our clients are doing on Habit Builder. I mean, some of the measures are improvement in MMIX and BMIX, but we can't see any of this stuff, so we don't know what's happening. And because we are not registered ourselves on Habit Builder, as far as I'm aware,
No,
we don't really understand the process, so we can't help our customers in these areas. So I think we need to be able to register even as a sort of dummy thing just to run through Habit Builder. But we certainly need to be able to view our clients' scores, what they're doing, and so on a dashboard so that we can figure it out.
Yeah, no, Guy, those two comments of yours are well known to the product team. They're on the product improvement log. And just for everyone else's information, Guy and I are both coaches on the program, on the two pilots that are going on. And right now, because the product is a pilot and it's sort of in its infancy, there are some visibility issues with it. So, for example, we can't see exactly what's happening with the businesses that we're coaching. So that obviously has to be improved. The dashboards need to be made visible to the coach as well. So that has to happen. There's actually, Guy, this week we've seen the first prototypes of what some of those dashboards are going to look like. So it's being worked on from a what's the word? The first pass set of them is already coming out. So that I think in the coming month or two we'll see what's going on in that space as well. But yes, you're dead right. The feedback from the SMEs is good. The experience from the coach point of view at this stage isn't as good as it could be and should be. So that's been
I'm happy to look at the dashboards if the prototypes if you want me sort of an outside view.
Yeah, no, we'll do that. Yeah. So long story short, the intent is that the product isn't just a diagnostic tool as it currently is. It's that it's also a tool that we focus on making sure that stuff actually happens. And ironically, some of the feedback that we've got is the bigger issues that the SMEs wrestle with is actually getting stuff done. So the sense is, and the feedback from the businesses we've interacted with on the pilot confirms this, that there's more value to be seen from a tool that engages them and keeps them engaged, and then helps them build. So the logic is build the habits. It doesn't matter what you're focused on to start with. Everybody has a set of priorities that they're working to in their business. So worry a little bit less about, to start with at least, about what they're focusing on. Focus first on building the habits of execution. And then as they get into the depths of it and they are now executing, they come to the realization that what they're focusing on delivering needs fine-tuning. And that leads then to, oh, we need to do the diagnostic and fine-tune what it is that we're focusing on. So basically, you layer this thing little by little. You start out with the execution piece, you get them executing, you then fine-tune what they focus on in layers, starting out with immediate focus in front of them, and then getting them to understand the OKR methodology or similar, and then bit by bit you build up the layers. And what happens then is you get from the planning piece into the strategy piece, because once they're executing, they also then realize that from doing the diagnostic, that their strategy isn't tidy, and they've then got to go and fine-tune the strategy pack around what problem they solve, who they solve it for, what their business model is, and the like. Our original thinking was actually 180 degrees the reverse. Start with making sure you know what you're doing, get into execution, and build your rhythms afterwards. But it looks like the immediate needs and the way the teams on the ground respond to the product, it looks like execution should actually come first. So that's been an interesting revelation for us, that it's actually the utility for the user isn't quite what we thought. It's actually a little different to that. So as a result of that, we're responding to it. As a result of that, what we will see is a bunch of people will likely start using the tool as an execution tool rather than a diagnostic tool. And from the execution piece, it will go into the diagnostic piece. Of course, me as a coach, I don't think it's going to change what I'm doing. I think it's going to be from where I'm sitting, I'm going to use it as the diagnostic, and it's going to be my first port of call, with the clients that I have in any case. So I don't see my modus operandi shifting, but I do see that it will be a very useful add-on to what I'm doing at the moment. So I guess what I'm saying is where the SME is sitting, something else might be more important, but where the coach is sitting, I think in any case, it's very likely that that we're going to be focusing on the diagnostic piece, because that's primarily what helps us work out where to focus on with the guys on the ground anyway. Okay. Any thoughts from anybody else before I shift on?
Wayne,
Go for it.
the last point that you just discussed, I'm a little worried about that because I
Yeah.
see that if the coach and the SME sits on two different poles, it's going to be heading with different intents. We're going to be active on the platform with different intents, and which I think isn't a great idea. And I have a question here for everyone. You know, how you see yourself as a problem solver, directly involved in problem solving of the SME and using this as a tool as much as possible to do your problem solving, or as a coach to be extremely supportive but not get deep into the problem solving. The roles are different. So I think if you leave it there, but the decision on the SME to be slightly polarized from your view as to how the engagement should be, I would probably be having a little apprehension in terms of where the focus should go on implementation straight away without the diagnostic, because I saw the sense was diagnosis, understanding where you have your problems. You know, the way back, the way we were taught from Eliyahu Goldratt's theory of constraints,
Yeah.
you know, find out the constraints, focus on the constraints, and the whole idea of the full potential model is based on that. So I see a little bit of a shift from there. And the second point that I would like to highlight here is that we started with the X-ray and the academy. We now have a third product there. And at some point in time, if the pricing is going to remain the same, we've got to ask ourselves, what is the allocation of interest inside us on the platform to the various components? Because, you know, it's going to be a lot of things. Where's the focus? What's exactly are we supposed to do with what? So I park there my thoughts with you for all of us to think. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good set of comments you've made there. Let's open to the floor. Let's hear initial thoughts from others as well. While you're thinking, I'll give a quick response there. I don't think the intent is one or the other. I think the intent is ultimately it's a collection of tools that help the SME build their business. So we started out with the hypothesis that diagnosis is the most important thing, and I, by the way, still think it is the most important thing. That said, though, there are people who they get to the diagnosis piece, but their immediate pain is actually not on the diagnosis. They think they know what they're doing, but in actual fact, in many cases, they don't. So the starting point is actually getting them executing. So I think what's going to happen is there'll be some that will start out with the execution piece, and there'll be some that will start out with the diagnosis piece. Probably the coach-led stuff is going to start out with a diagnostic piece. And I suspect there will be some who actually arrive at our door because they want some help with execution. I don't think it makes a huge difference as long as we don't end up watering down the products. I think what we'll find is that different users with different needs and emphases will start out in different places, but I think they'll end up in the same place, to be honest. That's what I think. But time will tell.
I agree with you. I think as well, once they start using the habit builder and they realize how complex implementation is, well, obviously they know it, but then they're going to be faced with a lot of other challenges which will require different types of problem solving. So when someone has the tool to build a habit, but they don't build a habit, there's a lot of psychology beneath that. And the team will be exposed in terms of not being able to implement, although they have the tools to implement. And that gives rise to a lot of new ways of problem solving, which I think is a good thing as well. Yeah, so that's just my thoughts on that.
That said, though, where I do agree is that we need, as the developers of the product, need to be careful that we don't try and be everything for everybody, because that's very difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a good idea to build a set of tools that the users see as valuable. But if we take that too far, we start going and straying into areas that we don't know enough about, that are peripheral and adjacencies, and we do a poor job at that. And also we've had some discussion as well around, there are tools out there that are primarily execution focused, like the EOS stuff and all of that. Obviously, it's a lot more expensive. Our intent, by the way, with the tool we produced is to find a cost-effective way that can help people to build businesses. But we need to be careful. We do need to be careful that we don't stray into places that we don't know enough about. And also, the chances are that if you're trying to build lots of things, something ends up being the poor cousin. So it's not inconceivable that as we build, we find we can't pay enough attention to what's most important, and because we're trying to build the all singing, all dancing, it ends up being a very average product, and we don't want that to happen either. So those things have resulted in, and that's why I said earlier on, the duck looks calm on the surface, but in actual fact, there's a lot of thinking that's been going on, under the surface, and that's why we've ended up where we are. That said, though, it's going to take a good few months before we're ready to rock and roll and release the Habit Builder Quest feature. It's not in a state at this point where I would feel it's good enough to release. You heard Guy's comments on it. He mentioned one or two. I think there are another 3, 4, 5 that needs serious work as well. I think. Yeah. So that's directionally where we're going. And ironically, Sean King, you'll recall a discussion that we had many moons ago where you thought remember the discussion where you thought the emphasis we needed to get more directly from the SME? You remember that discussion that you and I had?
do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's essentially what's been happening in the last while. And it's come about not because we have hundreds of direct SME clients, because we actually don't. It's come about because of these particular programs, the pilots that we've had. We've basically had 3 pilots so far. We started out with a pilot right at the beginning of the X-ray release, where we had about 40 businesses on just to try out the X-ray itself, the diagnostic piece. And then we had these 2, we've called them the Growth Transformer and the Boss programs. They're different types of businesses on this program. There are guys that are being sponsored by the bank, by FNB, and then there's another group of people on the program who are people that we think will give us good feedback on the product itself, and so they are of a different makeup to the original Growth Transformer teams. Guy, you've got a comment?
Wayne, just on that, do you? Sorry, Guy. Do you pass those? Are those, I suppose, consumer or customer interactions? Do they get easily passed through to the coaches then? In terms of, is there an easy transition from a SME that is saying, or a business that is saying, we need help, we like what you're doing, through to a coach?
I'll come back to that in a second, because I've got some stuff I want to say on that. That links back to the opt-in program that we've been launching. Guy, your comments?
Just a sort of random thought. One thing I'm finding with some of the clients on the GT program and this other thing that I'm doing is getting them to get out of the starting blocks. And I think some of them are a bit sort of rabbit in the headlights. They want to do it, but they don't know what the commitment looks like in terms of time. And everyone nowadays is very time poor, including ourselves. And it occurred to me that maybe one way of overcoming that is some sort of interface to something like Calendly, where they say, right, I'm ready to start, and I want to have a slow start, fast start, because people operate at different speeds. I mean, one of the X-ray clients from, did his X-ray literally in the day he was registered, and I debriefed him 2 days later. Others haven't yet found out where the start button is after weeks. And I think if they could sort of, part of the sign-up process says, I need to be able to do this slowly or quickly. And then with a Calendly type interface, it can put stuff, suggested blocks of times, you'll make time blocks for activities into their calendars, so that they then at least have something, A, in their calendars, and B, they can see what those time commitments are. I don't know if that would help, but it might do.
Yeah. Well, the thought has already occurred to me that as part of the habit builder, one of the steps is, once you've decided what your promises are for the week, right now, we stop at the point where we've got a page where it says, now go put these things in your calendar. It would be much easier if you could use something like Calendly and just do it there and then automatically. So I find when I'm playing with that, now I've got to go and open up another screen as well. So I do think that kind of tool would make a difference. So just circling back then on the comments that Sean made, the feedback loops. We are getting feedback all the time. And I think it's fair to say, Sean, that feedback has mostly gone to the product team, who have needed that input for developing of the product. Okay. We haven't shared a hell of a lot of it with you guys, and probably we should. Probably I could gather a collection of insights that are coming back from the end user and share those. If I were to just off the top of my head give you some comments, and just before I do that, maybe I should just say what the makeup or the demographic makeup of these end users are. There's probably half of the users are SMEs that are associated with either these programs that we're running, that are basically sponsored programs with the aim of developing the product, and also clients that are clients of our business development clients. They are accelerators and the like. Okay, that's probably the biggest group. The second biggest group is your clients, the clients of the coaches. And then the third group, and it's quite a small group, is SMEs who've arrived on our doors directly. They're very few of those, because we haven't emphasized that, which circles back on the opt-in program that I've shared with you. I have had feedback from probably 10 or so coaches so far who've said they want to be part of that. I'm busy working on trying to take that to the next level. I've had some distractions this last week, so I've done nothing on it, to be brutally honest. But basically what's coming next in that space is those who expressed interest in supporting SMEs who end up with an X-ray without a coach. And those will be coming from those programs, for example, but also the ones who come directly. I'm going to be asking you guys what areas of specialism you have. I know some of you, so I know what you do, but I also know that some of you do things that I'm not quite sure. So in the back of my mind, I'm going to put together a little bit of a survey. It's sort of going to be built around the different sections of the X-ray. I've done a V1 version of it already, sort of say, well, in the strategy area, you need A, B, C kind of thing, and execution, you need D, E, F. So I will probably come back to those who expressed interest and just share a survey with you. You can just tick the boxes on the ones that you think you would be able to support an SME on. And then the third group are the people who wanted to perhaps explore the idea of being associate coaches. This is for our sister company, Blue Skies. Guy and I are both coaches on that program, and a few on the group have actually experienced their programs via the accelerator programs. So if the coaches who express an interest in that, I will be launching a more detailed survey that will explore your background, and that third route goes in the direction of you will be applying Blue Sky's IP, so you need to get up to speed on it. They're quite particular about the kind of coaches they use and the background of those coaches. So there's a bit of a more intensive process that's associated with that, and I will kick that off in the next little while. That's sort of going to dovetail with the next accelerator program that we're launching. We're busy doing the sourcing at the moment, and that's why I made the comment earlier on that I didn't get much time this last week. We're about to finalize the collection of businesses that are going to be on that accelerator program, and we're thinking that we can use that accelerator program also as part of the onboarding of the people who want to be associate coaches as well. So that's likely what's coming in the next little while on that side. Sean, did I cover your question, or did you want something
sort
else?
of. No, I suppose in a way you did. The question I suppose I come away with, Wayne, is there's still, in my mind, there's this us and them. You know, it's us, the coaches, and them, the coachees, or them, the potential businesses that come into our domain where we fix all of their problems. And I'm just wondering, in this learning as NXT-9 grows and builds out its offering, how there doesn't seem to be almost a community sense of chat. Let's learn together. Well, here's a potential SME that's approached us openly. You know, how do they almost walk into this community of coaches, or are we really just a funnel for SMEs to either go through to Coach Sam, go through to Guy, go through to Wayne, and then it sort of splits out and nobody really knows what's happening? And my suggestion is, as we're, you know, there's more power in community than there is in channeling an SME into one coach or into one way of thinking. And as you're growing, my sense was that this isn't just about assigning SMEs to coaches and applying good tools. It's about building out a coaching community, a business growth type community. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense with that.
No, you are making sense. And I guess it's fair to say that right now, we have focused more attention on the development of the product and its use by coaches than really on a community per se. So, you know, just thinking aloud while you were making those comments, we in the broader community that I work in, there is a collection of experts that they're not really coaches. They're more like consultants that help small businesses, but we haven't drawn them in, for example. So if we were really focused on a community, probably we would add them into the mix as well. Even though they aren't coaches, they probably would be able to add value to each one of us to fill gaps where we don't have skills. And we haven't really done much about that. So I think your point's well taken. Probably it might be worthwhile just thinking a little about a few steps that might take us in that direction. So if I were to say to you, Sean, you know, what would be steps 1, 2, 3 that would at least move us in that direction in the next while without you know, making a huge project of it? What might those things be?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, the first thing I would say is invite some coaches in, I mean, invite some businesses into this environment and this forum as well.
Okay.
Number one. This, because I think you'll get a very unique perspective, and there's no reason why they wouldn't want to add to what you're doing.
Exactly.
This is their product after all. The second thing is, I think that we need to come out from, I would say we, in terms of coaches, you can almost create a platform or create a way or a community in where the coaches can come out from behind the curtain and start to be a little bit more exposed to the frontline customers, either via opinion pieces, an NXT-9 blog, where, you know, Sam is able to coach stuff that he's just learning, and it just creates intrigue and interest around, you know, coaches being real people and not doctors waiting in some doctor's room that's intimidating for me as an SME.
Those are two good suggestions, in my opinion. Do the rest of you feel we are maybe missing a trick here by having this as a coach group, and instead we should broaden it? We should, all of the SMEs who've been involved in one way or another already, we should just add them all to the group, and as I said earlier on, add the specialists we know. So would you guys think that's a good idea? I see Gary nodding his head there. As opposed to, this is a coach group where we talk about coach things. I have to say, Sean, you've triggered some thinking here, because it's basically been a coach group, because that's how it started out. Suleiman, your thoughts?
No, I think it will model. I think it will model the water. First, I think we should have a coaching group, because even if you put business owners here, the lens in which they're looking at this problem is totally different from that of the coach. They are the people that deal with the issues day to day. We are the one helping them on how to navigate the journey of what it is they do day to day. There are two different things. If you want to start a different community where it's a mixture of ideas between coaches and the business owners, no problem. I have no issues with it. But I think a coaching group should stay as this coaching group that uses NXT-9 to help these customers do the things we do. There will be better flow. The second side of it is that, yes, if you had a community where it's a mixed bag of the customer and the coaches, what it means is that you get to hear firsthand the kind of challenges and problems that business owners have as it relates to using the tool. So it will be almost like a research platform, or a place where you gather real, or you feel the pulse of what the customers are feeling. You get customers nodding, say, I had that problem. I was wondering why they had that functioning in the tool, or maybe I have not been able to understand this maturity index properly. So yes, both communities are needed, but I think we should still separate them all the same.
Okay. And I saw, was it Nicole put a thumbs up there saying you agree pretty much with what Suleiman was saying there, I imagine, Nicole?
I think definitely. And I think from my point, I'm fairly new to coaching. So, 30 years experience in corporate, but fairly new to coaching. I've worked with SMEs, but not in that role. And the coaching group would be fantastic as a support group. And just listening is, for me, a huge development tool. And I do think there's an opportunity for the new group and for the mix, definitely. But the coaches alone, I agree, are a unique view on the topic and looking at it from a different angle. So maybe if you're super experienced and far down the line, you could rather see it as you can help people like me in this forum, because I'm just learning from everything that's going through. But if you added a client in here, I would not be getting the specific coaching opinions that I need to help me develop to be
Yeah.
a better coach.
Okay. So again, in a funny way, maybe we end up watering down our original intent with it. That said, though, I do think there is utility in a forum where it's all the users of the tool rather than just a subset of them. So we probably need to put our thinking cap on you a little bit. Alistair, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, so I think there's value in a lot of what has been shared. I wear both a coaching hat and a sort of specialist hat, and I think from this perspective, I think there's an awareness for coaches to understand some of the speciality solutions that can enhance some of the problems they're dealing with, and vice versa. I think from the idea of the communities, there needs to be a standalone separate community for us as coaches where we can come together and learn. But I think there is value from having some sort of engagement with the SMEs. It doesn't necessarily have to be a community like this. I mean, I'm just thinking of one of the things that I've seen another group do where they have what they call an office hour. So basically it's an hour or two every month on a specific day where the coaches make themselves available on a Zoom meetup, and the SMEs can come in. They put a whole list of questions and the coaches maybe sort of field some of those questions or topics. It's a way to gather some of the things that the SMEs are battling with. It's an opportunity for them to engage with coaches and vice versa without it being a whole big community sort of set up and that. Slightly differently structured.
Okay. That's a useful thought. Put that in our pipe and smoke it, Guy.
Yeah, I was going to, well, it's basically adding to some of the stuff Alistair's just said. I think the need for a coach-only group where we can talk about some of the issues we face with clients that we and other issues that we might not, with NXT-9 or whatever, that we might not want to air in front of the clients. But there's also a need, I think, for a group where we've got the clients as well as the coaches in. In other words, as you say, all users, and combining that with a sort of office hours approach might be a good one. And my thinking was maybe alternate. So alternate months. 1 month is the coaches only, and the next month is coaches and, well, call it users, a user group where the users can, will be coaches, but also will be end users, and they can raise questions, but also only group, and alternate them, because if we had both every month, we're starting to sort of eat into a lot of time one way or another.
Yeah, well, you don't get paid for coming here. Neither do I. So you do it for love. So you've got to balance that. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. But I guess the way to do that is to feel our way to it. Let's circle back on the specialists. And Alistair, I'm particularly interested in your thoughts and the rest of yours as well. Was the specialists are pretty close to us. We are sort of generalists and cover the whole range of what's in the X-ray, but the specialists are really those people who maybe focus on one element of it: the people specialist, the financial specialist, the risk specialist, those kinds of things. Would you put them in the broader community, or would you add them in the coach group? They sort of like us. They run businesses that and they might have similar issues to the ones we have. What thoughts on that?
I think there's an aspect to both. Just listening to you were sharing a little bit earlier about some of the challenges around execution, maybe some of the SMEs are struggling with when it comes to the coaching initiatives or getting the rhythms right or things like that. With me wearing both hats as a coach as well as a specialist in the digital transformation space, there are a lot of very powerful and very good tools out there that are enablers to assist a lot of the SMEs. And I'm actually using them with a lot of the clients that I work with and that as well. And I think for coaches to know what is available as an enabler, maybe from a digital or a specialist point of view, could help them with some of the engagement there as well. I think similarly for the SMEs, to know there are solutions out there which maybe speed up their work efficiency, time, maybe help them better manage execution and things like that. That might make the whole road and journey a lot easier for them as well in the process. So that would be my thoughts around that sort of engagement. And that can be done in various ways.
Would you put them in the more general group, or would you put them in the coach group? If we let's say we had two groups that alternated monthly as Guy suggested, what would you do with the specialists? Would you stick them in the coach group, or would you put them in the generalist, the group with the SMEs?
Look, it depends, I think, what you want as the outcome. If you just have, look, the coaches will be in the general group, that's fine. Then they can be aware of it. Somehow you've got to have a bridge between the specialist and the coach from an awareness point of view. But I think there's also that communication to the SMEs, because digital transformation is one of the biggest challenges. And there's a lot of good tech coming out to assist us as coaches in a lot of what we do and that as well. It doesn't take away what we do, but it just acts as a huge enabler and helps us along the journey. We still need our expertise and knowledge that we have.
And that reminds me, Alistair, that you did offer to take one of our webinars and share what it is that you're working on with the broader coach view. We'll take you up on that. Thoughts from others? Or any general Q&A? We've got 10 minutes left, so anything goes from this point onwards.
No, Wayne, I think from my side also, I think the community building between the coaches and the clients, I think it will actually add, it needs to add value to the clients as well, and to us. It needs to be a win-win session, definitely. And I think to get the coaches, to get the clients thinking about our problems and we thinking about their problems could be a great way to actually build a good relationship. Because if it's just them bringing questions and we answering, then it's still create a barrier of coach versus client. But if they actually bring input into our problems and what maybe we sketch a scenario of a difficult client or whatever, and it's a brainstorming session, I think that will be very cool and more relational than a ask question versus answer session.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. It's not just the SMEs who ask the questions. Coach Sam, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think we've all saying more or less sharing similar feelings, and I would also say that probably the coach, mentor, consultant, they can sit in one box and kind of discuss their role in improving businesses and SME performance, because they sit with different names and different titles, but end of the day they're improving performance, they're improving business outcomes. And I think that's what needs to be focused on, that's what needs to be seen. Whereas a user might sometimes find it a little bit difficult to sit in a session here, where we might be also in difficulty in terms of airing all that we have in mind when the users are present. So probably there should be a group where we have a collective interaction, as Henno just mentioned, and others have also mentioned, and another group for the coach, mentor, consultant kind of practitioners who go all out to improve businesses and improve business outcomes.
Okay, that makes sense. That's the way I was thinking as well. Alistair?
Yeah, I'm just thinking as we're sharing, I mean, just to give you an example of how one of the community groups works. So Zoa, for example, have what they call a Zoa community meetup. And what they do is they have a sort of theme for the meetup. They come out to South Africa, they do in-person meetups, and they will then spend 2 or 3 hours going through a couple of things, and the clients come and they attend and they watch and they learn and they engage, and it does create a community type environment. So that's one way, that could maybe, you could do a Q&A session, you could do a sort of theme for the day, and you're going to just touch on a couple of topics. SMEs might not have even been aware of those things. And it could be just little bits of expertise we bring to the table, but it brings and builds that relationship with the SMEs, and also positioning of what Next-9 is about, the coaching community and all of that as well. So that could be another way to approach it.
Yeah. And what we could be doing in those things as well is taking topics that come up commonly in the X-ray. They feature in the recommendations regularly, and have someone who nails those things talk about it and have a general discussion about it, where others who maybe aren't as experienced will benefit from it. And ditto with the SME. So, for example, you could get you to talk about the sort of like a tech stack kind of approach, and we could get a financial guy to come and talk about setting up forecasting systems or risk management or whatever. So I can see how that would work. Okay. So it looks like generally alternate months. One is the practitioner month, and the other one is the broader community month. Heno made a good point. It needs to be value for all of the participants, not just one set of the participants. And we could do that via a Q&A approach, a theme approach, more than one way to tackle that. So that's useful input. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. Is there anything else on your minds that you might want to pop into the ring for a discussion? Sean's wondering how he gets some money to start his bank, by the way. So if anyone has got some tips for him, just get hold of him and send him a check or something.
That's fun, Wayne. I'll tell you one thing, and maybe it's back to, I don't know who was talking about, I think it was Guy was talking about the calendar or the Calendly. You know, one of the things that's becoming quite popular is these financial calendars for, you know, within banking systems, where I can post to Guy, listen, this is what you need to sign off over the next few days in his department. He can calendar in what he needs to do. And I'm thinking about your OKRs, Wayne. And if the OKRs can actually go into calendars, and even I can push something to you, Wayne, and say, hey, this is you got to follow up on this. And then there's this prompt, the chat prompt that daily comes into your inbox and says, hey, Wayne, don't forget you got to get this out today, or get feedback to so and so by tomorrow. Anyway.
By the way, Shawnee, if you were still at Win-Win, you'd be using the daily chat bot.
Oh, really? Are you doing it with them?
Yeah, that like a growth transformer program. Yeah.
Fantastic, Wayne. Good man.
Okay. Okay, guys. I think we'll park it there. That was a very interesting discussion. I thought the discussion was going to be mostly one-way traffic from me, but you guys have given me a whole lot of stuff to think about. So thank you for that. I will go and chew on it, talk to a few people, and I'm pretty sure that what we'll do is we will go the route of alternating and getting the others involved in the every second month approach. Just give me a little bit of time to do that. I need to get this new accelerator program going with the second logo that you see on my screen there too. So I'm a split personality at the moment. Okay, so let's park it there then. Thanks for that, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Wayne. Cheers, everyone.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Cheers,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye. Bye.